Good day, everyone. I am Alejandro Asad III, and this is Analysis of Human Motion. On this video, we are going to talk about the biomechanical analysis of volleyball. Being one of the most commonly performed activities during sports meet, it is best for us as PE teachers to know how our athletes' body moves. This will not just only improve one's performance, but will only lessen the tendency of our athletes to commit injuries during game. This field attempts to make sense of the complexity of the human movement by looking at the parts involved and principles used. The movements of volleyball are a complex combination of strength, agility, power, and finesse. Each of these components is comprised of intricate and small movements, the summation of which are coordinated acts of striking the volleyball in a desired fashion. The complexity of the sport makes it impossible to explore every side of the biomechanics, but it is helpful to instead focus on a few motions to gain greater understanding of this field. Volleyball can be characterized by movement patterns including multiplanar movement, first step quickness, level changes, acceleration and deceleration, and high levels of force production. To begin, let us know the basic skills in volleyball. As a volleyball player and a member of a team sport, one should know the act of serving, passing, setting, blocking, spiking, and digging. These are the basic skills in volleyball. Now that you know the terms that needs to be unraveled, let's do the volley. The serve. The serve is a close skill. The volleyball player has the option prior to the serve on deciding to initiate the feat as well as when to make the connection. The volleyball player is capable of dictating the accuracy and power of the serve. Serving the volleyball can be performed in a number of variations, which includes jumps, standing, or underarm. As for today, we are going to tackle the most commonly used type of serve, the standing float serve. Always remember that when performing the standing float serve, one must know the phases of the action. These are starting position, ball toss, acceleration, ball contact, and follow through. In performing the float serve, both the upper and lower limbs are assisting in setting of the serve. Proper positioning is imperative as it will assist in transferring momentum and generating a larger amount of power to ultimately produce a successful serve. The ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, wrists, and elbow joints are all used in a standing float serve. The initial starting position of the serve begins with feet flat on the ground in an L or V shape, with the majority of the server's weight placed on the back foot. The non-dominant shoulders flex with the wrist and hand remaining low while supporting the ball. Scapular retraction pulls the dominant arm backward. The elbow flexes and the wrist remains in a neutral position. The deltoid, brachioradialis, and the clavicular head of the pectoralis major act together to raise the shoulder as the ball is thrown in the air. As the ball is tossed upward and the server takes a step forward, engaging the hip flexors, hamstrings, quadriceps, tibialis anterior, soleus, and gastrocnemius. The step transfers the server's weight to the front foot, the back foot and ankle plantar flex. The knee flexes and hip extends as the ball descends. The dominant shoulder extends and the wrist remain in a neutral position. The hand makes a contact with the ball and the elbow extends as the arm follows through the server. Next to serve is passing the ball. Winning the game would be very much impossible if one doesn't know how to pass the volleyball. A pass is done when the player hits the ball at a torso level. Volleyball passing is essential. The team that cannot pass the ball cannot win the game. It's that simple. Passing the ball begins the play and allows the team to get the ball to its hitters to score points. Learning to pass should be your first priority when learning to play. The key to passing is ball control. Learning to judge how fast the ball is coming, what kind of spin it has in it, and how you need to adjust in order to get it to the same spot every time. Serves vary in speed and type. But no matter what kind of serve you get, your goal is to have your pass go right to the top of the setter's head without making him move. When the server contacts the ball, get into ready position so that when the ball crosses the net, you will be ready to move to it and pass the ball. Put your feet in a wide but comfortable stance. Bend deeply at your knees, bend forward and the waist, and put your weight on your toes. Hold your arms loosely slightly in front of you and to your sides. Do not yet contact your hands. Forearm angle should be approximately 45 degrees from parallel with the floor. Contact the ball in the sweet spot. Sweet spot is in between wrists and elbow joint on anterior side and inferior from anatomical position. Feet shoulder weight apart, one foot slightly in front of the other, on balls of the feet, down and ready. Hands should be extended fully and pointed downwards so there is a flat surface extending from the shoulder all the way down to the hands. When doing the passing, please remember the biomechanic concepts involved. First, the angular speed and velocity. Rate of change in the angular position or orientation of a line segment. Due to the momentum of the incoming ball, passing should not be done with the arms. Arms should not swing above chest level. Next is the stability and balance. Resistance to disruption of equilibrium. Passer should be down and ready in a universal stance. On balls of toes, feet shoulder wide apart, one foot slightly in front of the others, arms extended fully in front of the body. And the last one is the Magnus effect. Deviation in the trajectory of a spinning object toward the direction of spin resulting from the Magnus force. When the incoming ball has either top spin or back spin, changes in angular speed and velocity will occur. Top spin is where the ball will drop quicker. Back spin is where the ball will rise. Golf balls versus volleyballs, there is the same concept, but since there is no dimples, the ball usually has top spin and will drop due to pressure. Based on biomechanics, the angular speed will change based on the power of the incoming ball. The more power, the smaller the angle and less power in the lower extremities. This is what we call the absorption of forces. If the user is too forward on toes, the pass will be low. If the user is back on heels, the ball will be too high. Whenever a ball is hit, it is usually hit with top spin. Therefore, according to the Magnus effect, the Magnus force will push the ball down at a higher rate, which will mean the passer will need a smaller angle. Next to pass is a set. A set is done when one of your teammates projects the ball using the palms of the fingertips towards another member, trying to attempt an attack. Setting is divided into two phases. The phase 1. Once in the arise of the ball, the ankles, which are synovial hamstrings, are in plantar flexion. The gastrocnemius and the soleus plantar flex the ankle. This allows to reach the ball easier. The knees, which are in synovial joints, flex. It flexes due to the hamstrings. The hips, which are in ball and socket joints, contract. Shoulders are in extension. The deltoid and rotator cuff muscles allows to reach the ball, enabling an athlete make a contact with the ball so he or she can set it. Elbows are all above the head. They are in flexion due to brachialis and biceps. Head is lower than the ball, causing the neck gut to hyperextension. Levator scapula and sternocleidomastoid are different muscles to help the neck to hyperextend. The neck is the fastest joint. The rest, which also are gliding joints, are muscles that allows the palm and wrist muscles to hyperextend. The second phase. In phase 2, the athlete's ankle are remain in plantar flexion. The gastrocnemius and soleus plantar flex the ankle. The knees are now in extension. The hips, which are in ball and socket joints, extends with the help of hip flexors. The shoulders are in flexation. It flexes with the help of deltoid and rotator cuff muscles. The elbow, which are in hinge joints, extends. It extends with the use of brachialis and bicep muscles. Now, the neck is in extension. The levator scapulae allows the neck to loose in extension. The wrists, which are in gliding joint, extend and pushes the ball up. The flexor carpi ulnaris allows this to happen. Next to a set or a toss would probably be a spike. A spike is an action undertaken trying to score a point by slamming the ball over the net through the opponent's court effectively and aggressively. During the preparation phase, it is important for the athlete to gain maximum momentum and height leading to the vertical jump. Momentum can be defined as mass in motion regarding the variables mass and velocity. The momentum of an object is equal to the mass times the velocity of an object. Looking at the run-up phase of the volleyball spike, the momentum is the result of the mass of the player and the velocity of the approach. In order to gain maximum momentum, the athlete must apply a certain amount of force in order for inertia to increase and produce a change in velocity. During the preparation phase, the momentum of the body builds up kinetic energy, or otherwise described as energy in motion. The athlete needs to transfer this into potential energy by keeping their body moving, as stopping will result in loss of this energy. This then makes link to Newton's third law of motion, which states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. During this phase, force is built up and applied into the ground both vertically and horizontally. This thus then allows the athlete to propel forward during the run and then upwards coming into the vertical jump. Together, the relationship distinguished between momentum, kinetic energy, and Newton's third law in the run-up all contribute and lead to producing greater jumping height in the next phase. Next to the run-up is the jump-up phase. Newton's third law states, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. In the jump-up phase of the volleyball spike, the athlete applies force to the ground in a vertical direction. If the force produced is great enough to overcome inertia, the ground thus exerts an equal and opposite reaction in which can result in accelerating the athlete forward, contributing to a successful spike. The leg extension at the peak height of the jump phase is important as it allows the athlete to momentarily hang in the air. This is achieved by the legs strengthening from their bent position just after leaving the ground. By strengthening and extending the legs at the peak height of the jump, this thus assists in conserving vertical momentum in the upward direction. The volleyball athlete's body's center of mass is moving downward due to the effects of gravity. However, the athlete's upper body is moving upwards due to the strengthening of the legs. This then results in the athlete being able to momentarily hang their center of mass in the air. This effect provides the athlete with time in the air to then determine the optimal position and angle that will lead to the achievement of a successful spike. Next to the jump up is the arm swing on jump up. The arm swing is one of the most important factors that contribute to the volleyball spike height during the vertical jump. The arm swing increases the angular velocity and torque at lower extremity joints, COM height and velocity at takeoff for a counter-movement jump. When looking at this phase, we refer to the biomechanical principle, the kinetic chain. Blasvik defines the two main categories of the kinetic chain as push-like and throw-like movements. The throw-like movement assists in analyzing the arm swing as during this phase. The shoulder extends before the elbow and wrist, with the shoulder beginning to extend while the elbow is still flexing during the wind-up phase. When ball contact is about to be made, the extension velocity of hand and fingers also increase, which results in a high ball release velocity. This provides the most proximal segment within the action, being accelerated before a braking force is applied to the trunk region. Then we have the spike of the ball. The aim of the heat follow-through phase is to ensure force from the athlete's body, as well as force that has been built up through previous phases, is being transferred into the ball to generate maximum speed, as well as speed, accuracy, and force is also important during this phase. In order to gain the most accuracy and power, the ball contact should be made while the athlete is at the peak height of their jump. The airborne time of the volleyball can be reduced by creating topspin on the ball. By doing this causes the ball to experience an aerodynamic force known as the Magus effect. The Magus effect refers to the relationship between both the air pressure and the ball. In other words, pushing the volleyball downwards so that it lands faster. Blasvik describes this effect, stating that as the ball is spiked downwards by the athlete, the ball drags a boundary layer of air with it. The air that is spinning with one side of the ball then collides with oncoming air and slows down. The slower velocity air is associated with higher relative pressure. An opposite reaction occurs on the other side of the ball, creating a pressure differential directed from left to right, thus creating spin on the ball. This effect thus allows the athlete to spike the ball with maximum force. Go. And so, when your opponent do a spike, there are only two ways to do a counterpart. It's either you do the blocking or you do the digging. In performing the dig, we should know first the angle of incidence. Before the angle of incidence is gone into a detail, it must be made aware that when a ball makes contact with an object, it doesn't lose energy. The energy is converted into other forms. Coefficient of restitution describes the proportion of total energy that remains with the object after collision. This energy that remains determines how high the ball is to bounce after contact. After contact with the forearms, the volleyball will rebound quicker if the platform of the forearms is smoother. The smoother and more locked the elbows and wrists are, the more accurate the ball is at being performed at the correct angle. The angle of reflection is greater than the angle of incidence, which is the flight of the ball when it comes over the net, meaning that for the ball to go in the air, the dig stopping the ball hitting the ground and preparing for a set, the ball must be hit from directly underneath the 90-degree angle is best as mentioned earlier. The kinetic chain is also referred to as the summation of forces, which your body can produce if the joints and next movement from the body is performed at the right time. This is where the volleyball dig can differ in technique. The correct technique uses a push-like motion. This motion uses the legs for the strength and moving the shoulders at the last bit just before the contact with the ball to achieve the correct angle. This motion uses all parts of the body to achieve the most power in the dig. The other technique is where the arms are used as levers, as the axis of rotation is that of the shoulders. This technique only gets power from that of the rotational point of the shoulders, whereas the push-like motion getting power from the proximal joints in the dig. Next is the center of gravity and the base of support. The center of gravity is where the total weight of the body is thought to be concentrated. This is more known as the belly button for most humans, as it is in the middle point of our body, thus our mass. When setting up for a dig, our athletes should lower their body low before the ball has come into their view. This helps them balance and gives them the spring from her legs, which produce the power of the shot. Not only does our athletes get their center of gravity low to help balance them, but as performed, their feet are at a wide distance apart. This is their base of support, and when this is lower, it makes it harder for them to fall over when performing the shot. When performing the dig, do not forget the Newton's laws. Newton's first law. This is the law that all things will stay in motion unless acted upon by an external force. This is also inertia, where the ball in volleyball will continue to head towards the ground unless it is stopped by the arms. If this didn't happen, the ball would hit the ground, thus scoring a point for the opposition. Newton's second law. Acceleration is dependent on the force and mass of the ball. This acceleration from when the ball comes off of the forearms is important, as it needs to be fast enough that it goes high enough in the air for the next person to get ready and perform the set shot. Then the third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This law applies so that of the ground rather than the ball in this instance. When a force is applied to something which does not move, an equal and opposite reaction comes off the ground. In the push-like motion which is used, the ground enables the force to be equal which is applied to it. Blocking is the first line of defense against an attacking opponent. A successful block is accomplished when either the ball rebounds off the hands of the blocker and directly back into the opponent's court, or deflects off the hands in such a way that the blocker's team may play the ball. A block has the further advantage for the defensive team that by placing the ball immediately back to the opponent's court, it forces them to put up another attack. Blocking successfully is a crucial feature of winning teams in today's volleyball. Key points for the effectiveness of block are anticipation, decision-making, movement speed, and jumping ability. Timing is the key to an effective block, and the jump must be timed so that the blocker jumps immediately after the attacker jumps, depending on how far the hitter is from the net. Farther off the net the hitter is hitting the ball, the later the jump. The blocker should attempt to reach over the top of the net to penetrate over to the opponent's side of the net. The blocker should be positioned opposite the attacker's hitting arm. Research has shown that during this spike attack, approximately 0.34 seconds elapsed from the instant of the takeoff until the instant of ball contact. Since the preparatory phase lasts about 0.29 seconds, only 0.05 seconds are needed to initiate the forward movement of the arm in the attack and the strike ball. When applied to the case of the blocker, it is clear that if the blocker has not sealed the net by the time the attacker has begun to accelerate their arm in the forward direction, they will not have the time to penetrate the net before the ball has passed them. The only way to make sure the spike is stopped is to penetrate the net early, well before the attacker begins the forward arm swing. To block efficiently, players should use a technique allowing the shortest time to arrive at the target, which is the ball contact, the longest lateral movement along the net, and a vertical jump. Also, penetration and angulation of the hands relatively to the net plane are determinant to form an efficient surface over the net and to control the rebound of the ball. This is the reason for which coaches consider the frontality of the body with respect to the net as an important factor. Pelvis and shoulders should be parallel to the net as much as possible. Previously, few studies have compared different footwork techniques for the lateral movement sequence in volleyball blocking. The two principal types of footwork techniques are the slide or two-step and the crossover or the three-step. In the slide step, the right foot moves laterally and the left foot follows close to the leading foot. Then the feet push up for the jump. While in the crossover step, the left foot first crosses over the right foot, passing closer to the net, and then the right foot closes the move, crossing back. Then both feet push up for the jump. Frequently, the crossover follows the previous short slide of the right foot. For that reason, the name of a three-step technique. When blocking, the first phase is the decision making. This is the time where the player takes a while observing the attack of the opponent, then decides whether to do a slide step or a crossover. In this phase of action, the body prepares with a bent position where the upper body is slightly bent forward and the gravity is in the center or in between the feet. The gastrocnemius, soleus, and the hamstrings are in flexion to attain greater balance. This is where the law of inertia takes place. The second phase is the jump up. In a matter of time, upon the contact of the ball and the opponent's hand, the body signals to perform either of the technique discussed. While the body is still in bent position, the extensors as well as the lower limb muscles will generate motion of weight absorption, leading to greater flexion and balance. By the time of the jump, the body does accelerate slightly forward and then defies the gravity to attain a float on air by the time of the block. Last phase is the block. Upon jumping, the pectoralis major retracts, causing the deltoid, brachioradialis, and the biceps swing backward in preparation for extension of all muscles in the arm. The hips, which are in ball and socket joint, extends with the help of hip flexors. The shoulders are also in flexation. It flexes with the help of deltoid and rotation cuff muscles. The elbow, which are in hinge joints, extends. It extends with the use of brachialis and bicep muscles. The wrist, which is in gliding joint, also extends, stopping the ball with its momentum, applying Newton's third law of motion. Playing games can be one of the most enjoyable moments of our lives. Volleyball being a game, it teaches us the morale of goal setting and hard work. And as I finish my discussion for today, I hope that you have all listened and still what has important. Once again, this is Alejandro Asif III. Good day and have fun.